Good day everyone. Let's talk about the development technological in Africa. So, what is Africa? Africa is the world's second largest and second most populous continent after Asia in both cases. At about 30.3 million kilometers including adjacent islands, it covers 6% of Earth's total surface area and 20% of its land area. With 1.3 billion people as of 2018, it accounts for about 16% of the world's human population. Despite suffering through the horrific system of slavery, sharecropping, and the Jim Crow era, early African Americans made countless contributions to science and technology. This lineage and culture of achievement through emerged at least 40,000 years ago in Africa. Unfortunately, few us are aware of this accomplishment as the history of Africa beyond ancient Egypt. Seldom publicized, sadly, the vast majority of discussions on the origin of science include only the Greeks, Romans, and other whites. But in fact, most of their discoveries come thousands of years after African developments, while the remarkable black civilization in Egypt remains alluring. There was sophistication and impressive invention throughout Asia and sub-Saharan Africa as well. There are just a handful of scholars in this era. Next is the continent in the world that use stones as their tools. Stones are common in East Africa as well as in the sub-Saharan Africa. From these stones, they were able to make different kinds of tools. Despite this, it still should be evident that ancient people of Africa, like so many other Asians of the world, definitely had their genius. Africa is the continent that has the world's oldest records of human technological achievement. The oldest stone tools in the world have been found in the Eastern Africa, and subsequent evidence for tool production by our ancestors has been found across sub-Saharan Africa.
In the history, science and technology is made of development, mathematics, metallurgy, architecture, and other arts. Mathematics. The Yoruba system was based on the units of 20 instead of 10 and required impressive amount of subtractions to identify the different numbers. Scholars have lauded the system as it requires subtract reasoning. So, great achievements in science and technology in ancient Africa math. Surely only a few of us that we know modern high school concepts in mathematics. First, we developed in Africa as was the first method counting. Astrology, metallurgy, and tools, architectures, and engineering.
Egyptian astronomy began in prehistoric times in the pre-dynastic period. In the 5th millennium BCE, the stone circles at Nabta Playa may have made use of astronomical alignments. By the time the historical dynastic period began in the 3rd millennium BCE, the 365-day period of the Egyptian calendar was already in use, and the observation of stars was important in determining the annual flooding of the Nile. Astronomy played a considerable part in fixing the dates of religious festivals and determining the hours of night and the temple astrologers. A condensed discussion of African metallurgy is difficult because of the large size of the continent and the 3,000 years over which it developed south of the Sahara Desert. Furthermore, several metals were produced and used in Africa, and metal production involved many technological steps which were not necessarily used for each metal type: iron, copper, gold, and tin. The topic of early iron metallurgy in Africa encompasses both studies of the technology and archaeology of indigenous iron production. Iron has number of advantages over copper, brass, wood, and stone. The use of iron ushered in an age in Africa with the expansion of agriculture, industry, trade, and political power.
African architecture in some areas has been influenced by external cultures for centuries. According to available evidence, Western architecture has influenced coastal areas since the late 15th century and is now an important source of inspiration for many larger buildings, particularly in major cities. African architecture uses a wide range of materials including that stick wood, mud, mud brick, rammed earth, and stone. These material preferences vary by region. The best known African architecture comes from Egypt. Egypt at the time of the pyramids was the richest part of Africa because of its location along the Nile River and its nature proximity to the Mediterranean Sea. Egypt's location enabled trade with other countries, which encouraged the exchange of ideas and allowed Egyptian architectural styles and by African architecture. Traditional medicine was the dominant medical system for millions of people in Africa prior to the arrival of the Europeans who introduced Western-based medicine, which was a noticeable turning point in the history of this tradition and culture. Herbal medicine in Africa are generally not adequately researched and are widely regulated. There is a lack of detailed documentation of the traditional knowledge which is generally transferred orally.
Navigation. Thousands of miles of waterways across Africa were trade routes. Many ancient societies in Africa built a variety of boats, including small reed-based vessels, sailboats, and grander structures with many cabins, and even cooking facilities. The physical geography and environment of the African continent precluded extensive water transportation on the interior waters, although light boats have been in use at least since the Middle Ages for fishing and transit on lakes and stretches of rivers between rapids and were permitted by depth or the tides. Let's proceed the Africa today. Africa is a developing continent, but its unstable economic state continues to put the already vulnerable regions, such as the rural areas, in a further socio-economic decline.
Hope for the future of Africa. First is educational support. Future Hope of Africa provides free tutoring, learning resources, and training for students to supplement their public education. By tutoring them, it can help students pass the rigorous exams and break the cycle of poverty. Next is the scholarship. Future Hope of Africa provides scholarship for both elementary and secondary education. In addition, they help aspiring college students through scholarship. And lastly, community and youth services. Clubs for boys and girls teach leadership, character, spiritual value, and environmental stewardship. Adopting digital technology innovation is essential in building economic development and growth frameworks that will open opportunities for all the countries in Africa. Building faith and character through an annual vacation, Bible school, and monthly youth and community groups.